Hello everyone, and welcome to another YouTube video. So in this one we're going to be looking at how I created my Makeover Monday viz from week 20. It's called the World Press Freedom Index, Unveiling the Dire State of Authentic Journalism. And the long and short of it is it looks at the state of press freedom worldwide. And press freedom is basically talking about a reporter's ability to report authentically without any sort of, interference, government intimidation, AI misinformation, and things like that. So the original data sets and article is brought to us by Reporters Without Borders. And so to kick things off, let's just jump right into it. We're going to go to the Makeover Monday site and we're going to talk about, essentially what we've done here. And we're going to end up just building everything from scratch. So I'm going to pop into my browser. I'm going to bring it in here actually. So let's go to the Makeover Monday site. I'm just going to type it in. makeovermonday.co.uk/data. So you want to type this into your browser. You're going to hit enter. And it's got a bunch of data sets from 2016 all the way to 2023. So I encourage you to check this out. There's definitely a lot to work with. But for this one, we're going to focus on 2023. We're going to go down, I believe it's week 20 like I mentioned. So we're going to click the link here. And what you see in this view, this is the original visualization. And it breaks down the situation of press freedom across the years. So you can see we have 5 different categories, and then in each category across the years it's highlighting how many countries fall into what category. And so you can see just from looking at this, majority of places are not in a good state, and so that's just the unfortunate reality of where we are. So I recommend you also check out the article here by The Guardian. Because I believe, before visiting, you want to have a good understanding of what is the subject about, right? Is there any context that I need to understand? That way, as you're searching the data, you're basically able to have a deep understanding, and it helps you communicate better when you go around to, creating your own viz. And so for Makeover Monday, the whole idea is we want to take this data, we want to take this visual, and we're going to say, what can we do to make it better? Like, what can we do to communicate and just help people understand more about the subject in question, right? So that's the goal here. If you're not too familiar with Makeover Monday, go back to the original website and you can read up all about it. It's been going on for years. And I'll say it's definitely something to consider if you want to transform your data viz game for the better. So since we're here for the data, let's scroll down. We're going to click this arrow over here that says download. Download. And then we've got the download there. I know for me, it's going to go to my download folder. In your case, just go to wherever you have the data downloaded. And I'm going to start up Tableau now. We're going to go from scratch. So this is the original viz that I built. I'm going to use it as a reference. That way I don't have to remember too hard because it's been over a month now since I built this. So let's create a new workbook. And then I'm going to move this original to my other screen here. So when you see me turning, you know what I'm looking at. Where's my workbook? Okay, so I'm going to bring it back. So we have a new sheet over here. And let's go ahead and connect to the data that we got. So I'm going to go connect. It's an Excel sheet. It's in my downloads folder and it's right here. So let's open it up. And you can see it's a very simple data set. It has 6 columns, the year in question, the ISO code. So this is just basically like the country code, the rank in each year for each country, the index score, it goes from 0 to 100. Yes. And the full country and the country zone. So basically everything we need to get started with. I think just to kind of explore what we got going on, let's grab the country we're going to put it on rows. We're going to grab year, let's put that on columns, and then we're going to grab the score and just drop it in here. It's the text actually. So score. Okay. So basically what we can see here, there's a few things I want to share about the data. You can see, for example, Bosnia and Herzegovina, it's got like a bunch of data points all the way up until 2022. But for 2023, the name is spelled a little bit differently. You can see the same thing with Brunei and Brunei Darussalam. So, you know, there's a few of these here. Cabo Verde, right? Cape Verde. So my point is Congo, Brazzaville, and Congo. So we're going to have to do a little bit of data transformation to kind of fix those data points. If you're working with a single year, it shouldn't matter as much. But I worked with all the years, so I need to fix this. And if you're going to join me along, you need to fix this too. In order to do that, I basically went on Google and just checked out like what are they called today. And then I'm just combining all of these columns together. So I have a transformed data set, which I'm going to actually show you here. I'm not going to do it live. I recommend you do that for yourself. So when I go edit connection, I think I put it on my desktop. So I have a cleaned version of this data set. Press Freedom Index. Where is it? Cleaned. Okay. So let me first open it and show you what it is. Then I'm going to bring it into Tableau. So when you look at this data here, you'll notice Congo Brazzaville. I fixed that now so we have all the data points together. You'll notice Cape Verde, same thing has been fixed. Bosnia has been fixed. So that way we don't have any issues with our data points, and we have now just consistent data running for the whole years 2013 to 2023. So now that we know what's in there, I'm going to swap this out with the original one that has those issues. So I'm going to just close this. I don't need to save anything. And then I'm just going to click here and open. And so I'm just going to remove this, put it back here. And so now we have replace references with country, sorry, cancel. Original country, right click, replace references. Country 1, click OK. So now you can see, just looking at the view, it's obvious that what we've done works, and so everything is consistent now. You'll also notice that Belize doesn't have data for 2013. So that's just something we're going to have to deal with. And as we go along the viz, where it's relevant, we've handled this accordingly. So I'm just going to rename this so that it doesn't have a 1 behind it. I'm going to rename these. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is, let me go back to the original viz. We have the first view here where we have a beeswarm chart, and it looks at essentially the index scores across all the countries in 2023, and it just uses the color to show the situation. Hovering on each country, you get to see a lot more detail. And so that's basically like, so one of the things that I like to do is I'm going to just give you something simple up front so that you can see the high level. But ideally, you should be able to dig in, and I use the tooltips a lot for that. So that's one way to sort of keep things clean on the outside, is to just embed what you need to in the tooltip, and you're golden. So for this view, I didn't build out all these calculations. With the help of an amazing tool online, we're able to get this in just a few steps. So first, I want to give a shout out to Tristan, who is like a Tableau visionary. He's really helping us out a lot by building some of these these tools that help us build these complex charts very simply. And so we're going to be using that tool here today, and you'll get to see how we can help you build something like this very quickly. So we're going to use it to build out this first view. we're also going to use it to build out this second view, which is essentially just the first view, but broken out into the different zones. So that way we can take a deeper look at what is the state of press freedom across each zone that's shown. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to get some data prep going for us to take into the tool that helps us create this chart. So to do that, I'm going to move this original out. Let's clear this worksheet, or actually let's do this. Let's take this year. So if you remember correctly, that first view that I showed you, it's only for 2023. So the first thing that we need to do is grab that year filter and pop it in here. And then we're going to isolate 2023, hit apply, and you can see now we only have data for 2023. We don't need this. So we need now, the next thing you'll notice is we don't have the situation field highlighted here or shown here because we have to create it. And so when you go to the index page at Reporters Without Borders, it gives a breakdown of the different categories and what scores fall within each category. So I'm going to grab the calculation that I used before. We're just going to copy it over here, and I'll show you what it is before we get that done. So, situation, edit, copy. So let's create a new calculation here. And let's go Control V. So all it says is if the score is greater than or equal to 85, then that's a good situation. Else if the score is greater than or equals to 70, that's a satisfactory. If it's greater than or equal to 55, that's problematic, etc., etc. So the way it goes is basically anything from 0 to 40 is difficult, and then up 40 to 55, problematic, and so on and so forth. So we're going to name this situation, and we're going to click OK. So if we grab this and drop it in here, you can see it gives the breakdown for each of the countries. So we actually want this field in our data for the beeswarm, so let's leave it in here. And just a little word on the beeswarm chart. Why I chose it for this view is because it lets us show a distribution without any overlapping points. And for data like this, I think it makes sense that we don't want to obscure any data points. If we're looking at an index score across all the countries, then all the countries need to be accessible in the view. And so that's one of the benefits of the beeswarm. We get to show everything without missing on anything. So with this basic view, we have our country, we have our situation, and we have our score. And this is enough to get us what we need for that beeswarm chart. Now let's go ahead and click here. Shift, click, right click, view data, and then we're going to download this sheet. So I'm going to put it on my desktop for easy accessibility, and let's call it beeswarm 2023. Let's hit save. So now let's go onto our browser. We're going to go to in here, just type out tools.ladataviz.com. It's going to take you to Tristan's website where you can explore, check out more about him, his work, what he's done. But our focus is this beeswarm chart generator. You can see he's done a whole bunch of other ones, which is like just crazy because prior to these, right? And you know, there have been a lot of helpful tutorials and things like that to help build this, but that's an entirely different experience from being able to just come in here and have it generated. So there's not one better way. Obviously, if you want to understand and build yours from scratch, then it makes sense. You can kind of, you know, learn the calculations behind them, but these are complex calculations that not everyone may need to or be, you know, motivated to like go into. But these tools kind of help you develop these charts and still customize them in a way that fits your own needs. And I think that that's extremely valuable. So I use this a lot. You know, I'm always looking for the easiest way to do things. And so this is great. We click here. You see the sample data already laid out. Well, we're going to swap it out with our own data to create our own beeswarm. So the first thing I want to do, let's click on select file. And then we're going to find the beeswarm 2023, which we created. I have two of these. So I'm going to look for the most recent one, 611. 610. Okay, so this is the one. Click on open, and we can see here our beeswarm. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to shorten the width of this. I'm going to make it, let's say, 1200. And then the height, I want to keep it small because, again, it has to fit into our page on Tableau. One thing to keep in mind is the height and width that you choose for your visual is important because it's going to be translated into Tableau. And so when you're modifying the size of the view, your beeswarm chart is either going to be compressed or too big depending on what you do. So you have to think about what's the size of your viz, and that has to guide the size that you're using here. So for me, I know that I need this to be a height of around, I think 250 should be. Let's just say 300. Right, so it's enclosed in a small container here, which will fit in the viz. And then let's go ahead. We can see that the x-axis has the scores, which is what we want. But we want to size the circles based on those scores as well. So under size here, we're going to change from constant to field. Click there. And the field we're going to select is the score. So now you can see our beeswarm is readily available here. It's set up. Let me see if I can squish it a bit more together. That's what this setting here does for the forces. So now, just see a little bit more. Okay, so let me just make this a teeny bit bigger, so that 350. Okay, so now we have our base beeswarm chart, and this is all we need to take back into Tableau. So now, what I want from this, I want the actual complete workbook so that I can customize things. I have Tableau Desktop, so I'm going to click Tableau Desktop. If you have Tableau Public, click Tableau Public. If for whatever reason you just need the CSV, then you can click that. In my case, I'm clicking this. So now I have my workbook. We can open up this workbook and check it out and see what it looks like. Let's give it a few seconds. Alright, so there we go. Now, I'm going to delete these borders. Shrink the size a little bit. Okay, this is not looking like what I am expecting. Delete this. Let me try this. I'm going to adjust the width a little bit. Okay, so, okay. Let me try this one more time. Tableau Desktop. Open. Alright, so this looks a lot better now. Don't worry too much about this. We'll customize it properly later. So let me first go ahead and save this as, let's put it on our desktop as well. beeswarm 2023. Raw. And then we hit save. So just to kind of show you, things we can do, we kept that situation field in as part of the data so that we can grab it, put it on color, and we can break it out into the different situations. I'm not going to format it too crazy right now, and you'll find out why soon enough. The one thing I will say is that this border, we don't need it, so let's click here and remove it. Next up, we're going to build the second beeswarm chart, which to do that, we need another data set. So this is going to be broken out by zones. So now what we want to do is we're going to grab the zone and bring it into this view here. And then the one thing to keep in mind is in this generator online, we are not going to be able to use our zone on the y-axis because it's a text field. And so we need to somehow create some numbers to use in plotting that. To do that, we can leverage Tableau's index function. So let's double click here in the rows. Just type out index, and you want that function there. You hit enter. Click this arrow. We're going to change it to a discrete. And then a discrete pill. And then we're going to click here and edit our table calculation. We want it to compute using specific dimensions, so everything in the view, but we actually want it at the zone level, right? So we're going to click at the level zone. So now what this does is, let me bring this here so it's clearer. Zone Africa 1. Where's my scroll bar? Asia Pacific. Americas 2, Asia Pacific 3, EEAC 4, MENA 5, and UE Balkan 6. So with this data set, we can now generate the other beeswarm charts, and we will have this index on the y-axis, which is what helps us break out the beeswarm into the different zones. So let's do the same thing here. Let's click this, shift, click that, right click, and let's go view data, and let's download this data. So let's call this one Bees Zones 2023, and let's save that. Alright, so now let's go look for our data. I put this on my desktop. So Bees Zones. There we go. So let's see what's in here. So as expected, we have the sheets with the zones, the countries in the zones, the situation, and each zone is linked to an index now. So we have 1 all the way down to 6. So what I'm going to do, because in the original viz that I created, something that I did is I have this sorted in a particular way. So the lowest score for each zone is on the far left, second lowest comes second, instead of going from top to bottom. And the reason is because visually the human eye is trained to go, it just automatically goes left to right. So if I start you off with the highest at the top, then I'm asking you to look right, and then the next one is going to be here. And so I'm asking you to go like this, which is the opposite of what your visual naturally does. So for that reason, I'm starting with the lowest first. And to get that, we need to plan for this in our data. And so even though I can potentially reverse this in Tableau, I'm going to just do this here. So Africa, and the reason why that happens is because when you're looking at the axis, the lower number starts here and it goes upwards. But I want to have the bottom at the top and the top at the bottom. So I'm just going to flip the index and reverse it. So the first becomes the last. So I'm just going to take this 1 and change it to 6. And I'm just going to grab this here. I'm going to change 2 to 5. I'm going to change 3 to 4. I'm going to change 4 to 3. Now, I mean, you could potentially use an automatic way of getting this done, but I'm looking for the fastest way. And as you can see, drag and drop is really quick, or just dragging and copying is really quick. So that's what I'm doing here. And UE Balkans goes from 6 to 1. There. So let's just confirm we have 1 UE Balkans. That's correct. MENA 2. Fantastic. EEAE 3. EEAC 3. Good. Asia Pacific, Americas, Africas. Perfect. So now we can save, exit, and we're going to go back to our tool. So go back to your browser on that page. Now we're going to change the data source so we can have a different beeswarm chart. So let's go select. In our desktop, we're going to find, so I call we called it Bees Zones 2023. So we can click here, click open, and now we can see something is coming forth here. But now what we want to, so the index is actually put it on the X right now. We want it on the Y. So we're gonna just change this to index, and then on the X axis we actually want the score. So we're gonna change this index to score. Boom. So we have things laid out how we want them to be. One thing I think I didn't want this to compete with the big chart, so I made the circles a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna do that on the size. I'm gonna bring it down to like 15. I think that's good. Okay. So now let's do something. Let's make this the same width as the other one. So I think it was 1200. And then we're gonna make the heights, let's say 1000, so that it's spread out enough for us in the viz. So now, just like that, we have our second chart. I didn't use any calculations. I didn't have to do nothing, but it's right there. So again, shout out to Tristan for making it this easy. We can confirm here. Okay, this is not the arrangement that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and look into that y-axis index. Okay, so let's go back and look into our data and see why this isn't. Yeah, no, this is not. This is not. All right, so give me a few seconds to explore what's happening. Desktop. Index 6, 5, 4. Interesting. This is not. Okay. So, mistake on my part. Basically, we don't want to save this. We're going to discard our data set that we just built. So we're going to go back to Tableau. I need to sort this in Tableau first, right? So we're going to hit zone, sort. We're going to sort it by the score. And we're going to make it sort by the median. So I chose to show the median because I think that, when you think about statistics, the average can be shown, but it's going to be impacted by whatever outliers are in the data set. I don't want to have to deal with that issue. So I chose the median, which just tells us that half of the countries are above and half of the countries are below. So that way it just kind of gives, a more balanced representation of the situations in each zone. So now that we have this sorting going, we can say that, we can see that this gives us what we need. So we're actually going to use this data set instead of the previous one. Right click, view data, download. So let's just call this new zones 2023, save. And then we're going to go back online. New zones 2023, okay, open. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. Width 1200, height we said 1000. X-axis we're going to do score. Y-axis we're going to do index. So okay, now this is UE block. So we forgot to do one thing. So let's go back to our data set. We need to sort. Remember what we did where we flipped the sorting? We just have to actually do that again. New zones 2023. So let's go ahead and open that. So like what we did before, Mina shall become number 6 now. So the first shall become the last, and so on and so forth. So 6, stretch that down, boom. 2, 5, stretch that down, boom. 4, stretch that down. 3, 2, one. I'm glad we kind of have to go through this because this just shows you like the different things and considerations that you have to take into play if you're going to use that tool, because I think you can utilize it, you know, to build basically any type of chart you want to, any type of beeswarm chart in any way you want to, but you just need to understand how the stuff works in the back. So this is one way, you know, one consideration, you know, if you're thinking about things like breaking stuff out, sorting them, and whatever it is that you want to see. So we got that. We can save this, we can exit this, we can go back online, and now we should have what we want, hopefully. If we find another mistake, we're just gonna fix it. So select file, new zones 2023, open, do the same thing with 1200, height 1000, x-axis should have the score, and the y-axis should be the index. So now we can see this how we want it to be. So MENA is at the top, followed by EAC, followed by Asia, followed by Africa, America, and UE Balkan. So this is the base that we're going to use for the second one. Second thing we did, we shrunk this a little bit. And I don't think I need to play with this forces. I think the distribution is nice enough. It looks great. And so let's go ahead and grab the workbook again. So let's go Tableau Desktop. And now we have our second workbook with our second beeswarm chart, just like that, ready to go. Awesome. So we go here and we can see, let's just size this out a little bit. Like we did before, take away the borders, grab the situation, and boom. Just like that, we have our two base charts done. So let's go ahead and save this one. Save as zone. Let's put it on the desktop. Zones, beeswarm 2023, new. Save. And so let's go back to our original workbook. We can close out this page. Worksheets, clear our sheets. Okay. So now let's actually start placing things on the dashboard since we have our charts done. So let's go new dashboard. For size, I'm going to delete the phone layout here just to make sure it's not interfering with anything. So let's click here. Let's click delete layout. For the size, I did a fixed size of 1200 by 1800. So I want it to be more long than wide. Basically in data viz, I typically will go either longer or wider. I'm not a big fan of square vizzes. For some reason, they just don't visually balance out well for me personally. So this is a long one, and we are left with like empty sheets here. Our beeswarms are in other workbooks. So like, what do we do? Right? Tableau has this cool feature where you can click File, and you can import a workbook into this. So what it does is, let's say we go for our, you know, beeswarm 2023 raw. Click this, open, and you can see our beeswarm chart here that we built. And the cool thing is Tableau brings in all the necessary data that's behind the workbook. So if you go to data source, you can see that the sheet is right here for us, right? So we're gonna leave this. We're gonna go do the same thing, bring in the other workbook. So file, import workbook, zones, open, and there we have it. Hang on, the original one was colored, so maybe I brought the wrong one. Or it doesn't matter. Or does it matter? Here, I'm just gonna delete the first one. Okay, so I'm gonna re-import. You can see that I've done this before, so I might need to pick, what was this? Modified. 12? Maybe that was it. .6. Okay. Let's just pop that in here. Maybe that was the right one. Okay. So let's go here, and we're gonna grab situation, put it on color. We're gonna remove the border. Remove. Okay, this was the original. Okay. I think this needs to go. So I just removed the first one we brought in. That's what I just did here. So now we can go ahead. Let's actually just start building our viz. So we grab this. We're just gonna first of all grab a container. Let's grab a vertical container and pop it in here. Now we want it to be floating, right? And I'll tell you why. So hit this and hit floating. And then we're gonna go here. We're gonna delete everything else. Tableau tends to insert a bunch of stuff. I don't want to deal with this, so let's just X this out. Now I'm gonna grab this and I'm gonna position it manually. So we're gonna use this tool here, the layout positioning. So I'm gonna just go 0, 0, so that it's fixed at the top left. And then I'm gonna just make the container the exact size of my viz, which is 1200 by 1800. So that way I have a floating container, and then we can tile our objects, but we can still use a background underneath. So that's kind of the whole point of why I'm doing this, and you'll see how it makes sense when we get to do it. I believe I learned this from Samuel Parsons. So shout out to Sam for, putting me onto this, because whenever I would use a background image, I would be forced to use floating containers, but now I'm able to use background images and tiled containers because of this little trick over here. So let's grab our beeswarm and pop it in here. I'm going to delete the legends that came in with it. So here, delete, and delete everything. Perfect. Scroll down. We're going to grab the other viz and pop it in here. Any legends? Yep. So go here, click, delete again, remove from dashboard. So now we have our two main charts that we're going to be using in here. And let me go to my previous viz to see what we need to do. So we need a title and these little things here. So this is a container. We need some text. We need this. Okay. So let's actually start pulling things together. Since we already know what we want to do. So for the title, let's go into Figma. I used Illustrator to do mine, but that's not free. Figma is free, and you can do the exact same thing in Figma. So I'm going to do that so that everyone who wants to utilize and do it can do it from there. I'm going to go into Figma. I'm going to click here, grab a text box. And I think you could potentially write the text in as part of your background. I don't like to do that. I'm just going to, especially with like my white background, I'm just going to create the title on its own and export it as a separate component. And I find that makes it a little bit clearer, when you bring it into Tableau. So for texts, let's see here, font wise. Search. Let's search for April fat face. So boom, that's what I want. Size, let's make it big. Let's go under this here. I think 64. Is that cool? Yeah, let's see. So world press freedom freedom index. Okay. So let's stretch this out. And okay, so I'm gonna create a new text box. I don't want to try to, because I'm going to be using a different font. I don't want to put it in the same thing because of the spacing between both of them. So for this one, we can make it smaller since it's the subtitle. Let's try 24, and then let's just use, I think I used Acumen. So let's go. I used Acumen because it's fairly close to Arial. If you want to use Arial, you can definitely use Arial. I tend to use Arial in a lot of my vizzes, but I figured, it's Figma, why use Arial in Figma when you can use something else? So let's call this. Are you not here? Do we not have it? Do we not have it? Do we not have it? Okay, there we go. Unveiling the dire state of authentic. You can change this stuff up if you want to. I'm just again writing what I wrote before. subtitle is basically just giving the reader extra context to what they're looking at in this biz in 2023. Do I like this? I think we like this. So I'm going to move this up a little bit here. And maybe I'll go 120. Size down a little bit. Center this. No. Okay. So I'm going to grab these two, Control G to group it, right click, and we can go down here, export group 1. Let's export. I'm just going to put everything on my desktop, so title plus sub. Save. And then we have some text here and we have this logo here. So let's go to our workbook. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just going to close out this beeswarm 2023 raw. Exit. Save changes. Yeah. Close that and then close the other one just so that we don't have confusion with multiple workbooks open. Okay, so now that we have those two things, let's grab another container, and this time we want to grab a horizontal container, so we're going to pop that here. And then for the height, let's say, what did I use before? 150. So I'm just going to go here, edit height, 150. And so what we want to do is we're going to grab our image, since that thing we just did in Figma, that's an image. So let's grab that and put inside our container. I like to center and fit. You don't have to do that. Choose. So there we have it. We need now a vertical container so that we can stack these two things together. So we're going to grab vertical. Okay, so we need a text box. And I'm just going to copy the text that I wrote previously. So it's just letting the user know that they can go to the website to grab more information. And then at the bottom here, we need to go find the RSF logo. And how I did that, we go online again. Let's just type in RSF logo. So you'll find out on their website that they have a logo. Yeah. So they talk about their new logo, and if you scroll down, you can actually download the logo. I would recommend, you also should consider looking at the guide to see what are the constraints that have been laid around this design system and how you can utilize the logo. That way you're being respectful of all the boundaries that have been set and you're not misusing these resources that have been provided for you. Okay, so on here, how I got this out, I don't want this whole thing, and as you can see, we are permitted to use just the plain minimum version. So what I did was I downloaded this. Let's go say RSF logo PDF. Save. And then I'm gonna open it with Adobe. No, I don't want to open it in Explorer. I want to open it in Adobe. RSF logo PDF. Alright, so let's open this up. Now, I'm going to grab this. First, I'm going to actually edit PDF. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say edit using Illustrator. So again, I have these tools available to me. You may not have this available to you. So I'll put a link. I'll put the logo in a file and post it in the description. But again, I have these tools I use them so much. They are not free, but the subscription costs me like $29.99 a month or something like that. So I'm going to use it, right? So what I do is I just I save this. As an asset. Let's put it on my desktop. Select folder, export asset. But it's not really in the format like, you know, this whole big view. I don't want that. So I'm going to go here and just use something basic to clean that up a little bit. So let's right click. I'm going to open this with Microsoft Paint. So I guess it does look like, I mean, I tend to use a bunch of stuff where it's necessary, but you know. So RSF, we can crop that. We can go File, Save As. I want it as a ping, which is a portable network graphic, so it tends to come out clearer, you know, on when you publish stuff. So let's call this RSF logo clean, or actually minimal. Save, exit. So now we can go back into Tableau, and we can grab another image and put it in this box. Choose, fit, center, fit, choose, and then there we go. You can see I did this before. So we can now open, apply, and then we have our logo. So let's scroll down a little bit. Now we're going to click here, and one thing that we have set up with this is that when the user clicks the logo, it's going to take them to the index page for the Reporters Without Borders, just a convenient way for them to jump in and begin to explore further. So we're going to copy this link, and we're going to go back into Tableau. And then we're going to right click and we're going to say edit the image. And then we're going to say URL open when the image is clicked. And we're going to do this. Apply. Boom. You can put some alternate text if you want to. So that way, in case the image doesn't load, you can say basically this is the RSF logo or something like that. Now, I'm not going to worry too much about like padding and spacing. We'll deal with that later. The next thing we do is we have a summary, which I like to put in a lot of my visits. And, you know, I can't really tell you how to come up with a summary other than to say it just helps to give an introduction to what you're showing. Any additional context with your summaries, you can put some basic findings. You can put information on how to interact with the viz. So, you know, just some other context provided to give better understanding of what's being shown. So we need another container. Oh, I think for this we can just grab a text box and put it in here. And I'm just going to paste what I had before. And then for height, actually, I think this is good. What else do we need? So we need another thing here for the title. So basically in our main beeswarm, we're showing the scores for 2023. And so that's what I've chosen to write here, and then of course a little bit of info. So each circle is a location, letting them know this, and it's also telling them that they can hover to see the changes over time. So meaning basically I'm just telling them that if they do this, that they're gonna see more stuff. So now let's go ahead and bring in a container for this one, a horizontal container. Height wise, let's go here and edit the height. Let's make it 45. We're going to grab a text box and pop it in here. And we're going to do a Control V. Alright, so from this point on here, you see that we have this highlighter here. To get this going and also to be able to build out this tooltip, we have to do a little bit of data stuff now. So with this beeswarm charts, I'm going to go ahead and join a copy of the original data to this one here. So we're going to go back to the data source. We're going to go add. And so we're going to look for that clean data set that we had before. So Freedom Press Index cleaned, open. Now we're going to grab the page that we need, drag it into the view. And we're going to see that Tableau tried to join it on the score, but that's actually not the joining that we want to use. So we're going to go here, change that to ID, which is representative of the country. And then in our data set, we're going to click here and then we're going to hit country. So now we can see that the thing is showing how we want it to be. We have these columns here, right, for the beeswarm. And then we go here and we see information from our original data. So now we can go back to our dashboard. Let's actually go ahead and delete these two dashboards, which we don't need. So delete, delete. Okay. So now we can go here. We see a bunch of extra fields have shown up for us. I'm just going to modify these namings, country, ISO, zone. Okay. Now let's go ahead and let's go back here. We're going to add in, let's go on analysis. Let's go highlighters. We want to bring in a country highlighter. So first we actually have to go to the view. Let's grab country and drop it onto detail. So now we can go back here, analysis, highlighters, country. We want to grab it from here and move. Actually, how do I go to the layout here? A bunch of stuff. Let's come back here. Just gonna float this. And I'm gonna delete this entire thing, which has nothing useful for us. And this highlighter, I'm gonna bring it beside this container here. So now we have what we need. Make sure this is good. Yep. So actually, let's name our items in Tableau. That way it's easier when we're changing stuff around. So for the top, let's just call this. I'm just gonna call this main. Here, I'm just gonna call this title and image. For this, we're gonna call it, oh, I guess it's part of that. So let's just call it image. Here, let's call this title 2 plus highlighter, just so that it's clearer. And we have our 2 beeswarm sheets, so that's fantastic. I'm going to delete this title because it's redundant. We can see it, highlight country, that's all they need to see. What else do we need here? This, what height is this? 370. Let me modify this height a little bit so that it fits better. So let's edit height. 370, let's just go 380. Fantastic. Now what do we want to do? We have some space here for some text, but we're not going to write the text in yet. I'm just going to build in the container, which is height 160. So we need a horizontal container. Drop this here. We can scroll down. Click here. Edit height. We're going to pop that as 160. Click OK. And then, what else? We need another title for the zones. So let's grab another container. We need a horizontal one. So let's pop it here. Let's click here. Edit height 45. Now we have this view here. And what else do we need? So if you look at the original, something that we've added, we have some, I guess we can call these bands over here, which just highlights the situation in its zone. It shows the number of locations in that zone, the median score for that zone, and the zone name. So we're going to build this out, and then we're going to also build this out. So for this, we basically just want to go into a new sheet, and let's use the original data source. We're going to grab zone, put it on rows, and this is basically just like a text field. These are just text that we're going to be writing into this. And so for the zones, we don't want this null. So I'm going to uncheck null here. Now, what else do we need? If you remember, we're showing only data summaries for 2023. So we want to grab the year, put it in here as well, and isolate 2023 so that our information makes sense. So now we can do this. We can grab the zone, put it on text. We can grab the country, put it on detail. I'm going to click here, and we're going to do measure, give me the distinct count of all the countries, and then we can put that on text. Let's go full screen here. What else? We need the median score, so let's grab score, put it on text. but we're gonna click here, and for the measure we want to show median. Let's do 1 decimal place. So right click, format, boom, number 1 dp. We're good. So now let's hide this header here, uncheck, click here actually. So let's format this, remove these gray lines. So let's go under format, sheets, row banding, we want nothing. So we're good here. Now we're gonna play around with the text hierarchy just to kind of make things stand out more in a way that, you know, is helpful for the user. That's another thing that you can use to kind of communicate things a certain way. We can leave the text the same size, but that's no fun, and it looks kind of like, you know, nothing really jumps out at you. So let's go ahead and change this to Arial, which is right now one of my favorite fonts in Tableau, just because it renders well on any computer, and it's kind of it's clean, you know what I mean? So we have the zone. We're gonna exit this. We have it in big text, so let's go size 14, maybe 12. Now we have, I don't want to call it locations. We have this number here, the count. So let's just make that a little bit bigger. I think 12 as well should be fine. And then we're just going to say that's the number of locations. So click here. We want this text to be smaller because it's not really something that has to be prominent. It's just, you know, again, hierarchy, meaningful. Median score is here, and can leave that as this. I'm going to put this on the next level, and then the score, we're going to make that big. So let's try 15. We don't want it bold. Let's preview what that looks like. Did I mistakenly not save it? I didn't. So I'm going to do that again. Zone 12. Counts of country, so locations. Median score. Okay. Just gonna make this a little lighter so it's not like dark black, you know, easy on the eyes type situation. Okay, so this gives us what we need, and you notice that these are in French. So I'm gonna just quickly do one thing. So let's go here. We're gonna sort this to match our beeswarm chart. So let's click here, sort. Remember, we sorted it by a field, and the field we sorted it by was the score. And we sorted it by the median score, and we kept it in ascending order. So this matches what we need. So let's modify these names to make more sense. So let's click here. We're going to edit the aliases. So for Afrique, we have Africa's region, Africa's zone. Amerique is Americas. This is Asia Pacific. This is Eastern Europe and Asia Central. This is Middle East, North America. This is European Union. Awesome. So we have our, let's call this zone bands. Let's go to our dashboard. So now we want to line this up side by side. So we're going to grab a horizontal container and pop it down here. We're going to take this original beeswarm and pull it in. And then we're going to grab our zone bands and put them here. We're going to remove the title by clicking this title. Let's drag this here. So this fits nicely. And now, what do we need? Let's make one more chart here. We need to have this view, which basically just gives us the summary of what's going on in each zone. So 10 are in a very serious condition, 7 are difficult, 2 are problematic, and so on and so forth. So to do that, we're just going to create this view here. Essentially, whoops. Move this here. So we're going to create, let me hide this. As I'm building, I like to hide my sheets so that I'm not distracted by anything. So here we can grab the zones, put it on rows. We have to do the same thing. Year, we want only 2023. We want to have a circle for our views. We want to color them by the situation. So grab situation and put it on color. And we want to show a label that shows how many countries are in each situation. So country, text, click, measure, distance count. And let's go text. We want it to be underneath the circle, at the middle of the circle. We can click standard. Let's check the entire view. Let's spread this out a little bit. Looks good. And then we're going to right click here and uncheck show header. So now we have that view set up. And as usual, we want to sort this based on the median. So let's go zone, sort by a field. The field is called scores and we want the median. Perfect. So now we can hover and see MENA, Eastern, EAC, Asia, Africa, America, EU, and Balkans, just like we have it here. So we can call this zone summaries. And then let's grab this and put it on the right here. Click this. And uncheck. So we don't need the title. So now we have our basic view of what we need. And so, oops, we don't need this here. Before I end this video as part 1, I'm going to do a few things here. Let's start to play around with the spacing on this view. And then we're going to do a few things in Figma. So let's go ahead and move this in a little bit. So under layout, I like to use the inner padding to really, play around with the spacing. So I don't want all sides equal. I want to be able to modify each side individually. So I'm going to uncheck this. I'm going to move this to the left by 85. And then I'm just going to move it down, let's say 40. And then we can actually pull this a little bit. Okay. Now for this, there's no need of it. So when we put, let me put on the grid lines. So dashboard, show grid. I want to make sure that this is either starting at the top here or below it, because it just, for alignment reasons, you got to have things kind of balanced around your dashboard, and this is what I'm trying to do here. I'm going to align things. So let's leverage this container that we have. Let's push it down by 40, which is what we did for the, okay, so you can see it starts around the same place, but then I can kind of move this up a little bit. And now for the logo, let me move this up a bit here. So for the inner padding, let's say maybe 10. Okay, so close enough, close enough. And then I want to make sure, I'm just going to hit this image, and then for the right hand side, I'm just going to push it in by 85 as well, just to match the other side. So now we have this set up. Let's do the same thing here. Click. Let's push both sides in by 85 so that they're aligned. 85. 85. Okay, do the same thing here. Let's hit the container. So inner padding, uncheck, all sides equal. For the left, we push it in by 85, right by 85. So you can see things are lining up, nicely. For this one, let's see here. Okay, so we have this little summary thing here, which we have to build this out. So it's essentially an actual chart, but you can't really interact with it because I've hidden it. Basically, just it's under floating order. I sent it to the back, but now we can bring it to the front just so you can see what it is. So you can actually click here and see that it's actually a sheet that we built out to look like, a summary there. So let's build that in quickly. We can use our zone summaries, and actually let's duplicate this. Let's right click and hide. We're just gonna call this zone summary total. So we're gonna remove this zone because we don't want this breakout anymore. And so with this, we have what we want to see. And I added the percentage of total. So let's go ahead and actually create a computation for that. I'm going to grab count of country, control click, put it on detail. And I'm going to right click and add a table calculation, specific dimensions, situation, but I want the percentage of total by situation. So now we can exit this, show it as a text. And now we see our percentages. So I'm just gonna move this below, and then we can right click, format. We're gonna show, I think, no decimal places is what I used. And then let's go into the label, or we can actually just, let's go format, font, worksheets, give me everything in Arial. Then I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna shrink this a little bit. Let's go down one size. And then we're just gonna make this like light. Yeah, easy. Now, I think we're good. And then for the top part of it, it's basically just, we have text. So 2023 summary. And we have, 180 locations, I believe is what we do there. Let me see. I typed this out in mine. Let me see if I can. Give me 2 seconds here. So if I were to go count the country on detail, double click this and wrap it in curly brackets. So that gives me the overall count. So we have here, let me see, insert, apply. So here. So we have the number of countries here, 180, and then we're going to say total locations. And then we're going to go median score. So what we need now is we're going to grab score, put it on detail again so we can access it in the title. But we want the median score, so we're going to change the measure to a median as well. We're going to double click here, insert, median score, apply. So the reason why we're seeing this is because we have multiple. Okay, so we need to do the same thing. Double click, wrap median score in curly braces. Double click. Gotta put it back here. Okay, but this median score, right? The way when we wrap it in curly braces, is giving us the median score across the entire data set. What we need to do, let's go here, year, as a context. So what that does is this filter basically filters out everything that is not in 2023, so that the median score we're looking at is the 2023 median score. Now we can right click that, format, and paint. I want to see only one decimal place. Boom. So number, decimal place is 1, and then we're good to go. Now I can double click here, Control A, as usual. Arial. I think size. Let's go down. Start from 10. I think this I underlined it. This we had it a little bit bolder. This we had it gray because again. And we have the median score. So I think this is good. Now we can bring this into the view. Here. But we're going to actually make this floating. We're going to take this legend and take it out. And this, we can make sure it's fitting the entire view perfect. So we can go here and here. And I'm just going to move this also starting at 85. So under X position, we're going to push it in by 85 so that it aligns with everything else. And now, let me move it up a little bit. Okay, so now we can see this may need to move in a little bit. So let's push this in. We're probably going to need, let's try 100 first. Let's move it in a little bit more. Let's go 110. Actually, let's go 120. I think that's good. And then on the right hand side, I'm going to put 85 so that it doesn't ever. Nah, I think we could maybe 65 or 50. No, actually, ignore this. Let it stretch out as much as it wants to. Okay, I'm going to delete this. And then what else do we need to do? So we're going to, in Figma, we're going to actually create a background, and this situation scores. This legend is in Figma. So I'm going to push this view a little bit lower, push our beeswarm down a little bit. So let's add some padding at the top. Let's try 30. Let's try 40. Let's try 50. Okay. I think that should give us enough space. So this actually has to come down a little bit lower because we're going to need that space for our legend. If we align this to align with this chart, that should be a good way so that people can see this and then just look and instantly see that. And then we will have the legends over here. Okay, I think that's good. And then what else? We need to make room for these lines over here. So I'm going to push this up a little bit as well. Okay. So let's try at the bottom inner padding. Let's go maybe 30. Let's see 40. Okay. Now let's go 30. You can see that our circles are a bit more squished now. So we're going to go to the sheet and just shrink them down a little bit just so that they can still look like they can breathe. Perfect. So now we have this layout here. Let's go into this. Let's remove our row dividers that you can see. So format the borders. And let's take this out. So when we click on pane and we hit none, it takes it off for us. Now let's go into the container that has these three things here, which is this. We can call this, let's name it first. Let's call this the bottom container. So we always can find it easily. And we're going to do the same thing as we've done to align everything visually. On the left, we're going to push it in by 85. On the right, we're going to push it in by 85. We can see this is kind of, you know, moving funny. So let's bring this in a bit. And good to go. Let's remove the row dividers on this as well. So click this. Let's go format, borders, row dividers. Click here, hit none. And see where we're at. Okay, so I think we need to, let's push this up a little bit, because if you remember, we need to make space for this total at the bottom. So I'm going to move this up a little bit. So to do that, let's just say, let's click here. We're going to implement this differently. So let's go here, let's push this up. Let's go inner padding again. Let's move it up by, let's see if we do 90. That works. Click here. 9. Uncheck, select all sides equal. Let's go 90 again. And so for this one, we want it, if you remember the positioning, it's sitting a little bit higher, right? So that's why I'm you know, pushing them up differently. For this one, let's say instead of pushing it up by 90, let's try 120. And that looks about right. And maybe we can push this down a little bit so that it comes here. So let's push down by 20. That lines greatly. Nice. So I think this kind of gives us a good base of what we need. And so we're going to stop here and call this part 1. And then in part 2, I'll see you in Figma so that we can begin to create a background image. So I'm going to go dashboard, uncheck show grid. And as you can see, we're kind of already getting somewhere with this. We have our title, our summary. We have this little guy over here. And a bunch of, highlight this. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So that's basically the first round of visiting that we've done here. I'm actually going to remove the spacing here because I feel like it's pushed too much to the left. I'm going to undo this padding here. Just put it at 0. I think it works well at the center here. And it kind of, maybe if we can push it up further. And now we can push this one in by adding some padding. So let's add some padding to the right. Let's say 30, 40. That works. And it's still kind of aligned. Let's just see dashboard, show grid. Yeah, I think that works. Okay. So I'm going to stop this here and I'll see you in part